In a world where the media has been dominated by superheroes.
We interrupt this podcast to bring you this special address from the President of Marvel.
Folks, thank you for gathering here today. I want to, let's be clear, talk about the state of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We're on track to meet our quarterly expectations thanks to our incredible team and our strategy of maximizing synergy across multiple platforms. What in the...
Tremendous crowd, folks. Tremendous. Believe me, it's so great to see you all.
Donald, what are you doing here? How did you get past security?
Joe, I'm president of DC now, so frankly, I can go wherever I want.
Wait a second, Don. Isn't James Gunn the president of DC Films? And didn't you lose the Warner Brothers election?
Sleepy Joe, you and I both know that election was totally rigged. I won that election fair and square, but the swamp at WB is so unbelievably corrupt, and they've got people like James Gunn. Nasty guy. James is a nasty guy. Totally dishonest people. They don't want me around because they know I want to bring back the Snyderverse. Believe me, it's a mess, an absolute. And let me tell you this, folks, they won't be around much longer. I won that election by a landslide. I know it, you know it, everybody knows it.
Yeah, okay, Don, that's great and all, but let's get back to the matter at hand. Our Marvel content, it's, let's be clear, not declining as many have said. We're now entering Phase 5, and our numbers are still strong.
Strong, Joe? Phase 4 was a total disaster. It's sad, frankly, but it's true, so true. Your box office returns were down, your streaming numbers are plummeting, and the audience scores are falling faster than my critics' IQ scores. Secret Invasion was a huge mess. Great way to start Phase 5, by the way. Lazy writing, Joe, lazy. And using AI-generated CG, really, it's such a disgrace.
Now, look, let's be fair. Phase 4 wasn't perfect, but at the end of the day, people still tuned in and we met our goals.
Of course you met your goals, Joe, because Marvel's standards are set so low that I could do numbers like that in my sleep, which I'm sure for you isn't a choice.
Oh, come off it with all this malarkey, Don. You know, the one thing you have in common with Warner Brothers is that you're both failing brands struggling to stay relevant.
That hurts, Joe, it really does, but not coming from you. Now I only have one thing left to say to you. Live from our mother's basements, it's utterly nonsense.
Comic books, video games, television, and movies. These barely Irish assholes must band together to make sense of it all. It's not news. It's utterly nonsense.
Let me just say, before we get into it, first of all, thank you to everyone who tuned into episode 100. Just the response...
For real, thank you so much. That made me smile so hard.
Just the response we received to both parts was just outstanding. It's by far the most listened to podcast we've ever released. I'm not sure if we're releasing this right after episode 100. I was sort of debating on waiting to release the What the Fuck Happened to Marvel episode until, Loki season 2.
That was a lot of debating, guys, seriously.
So, just to provide some backstory, at the time of us recording this, Loki Season 2 is scheduled to come out exactly 1 month from right now. So it's coming out...
I'm stoked for that.
Yeah, so it's coming out October 6th, 2023. We are here on September 5th, 2023. Why are we recording now? Because Jack just finished Secret Invasion.
Look, guys, I really tried to watch it as best I could, but then I got through the first 2 episodes, and then I was in California for a week. Look, it just finally able to just plow through it, and God, I wanted to like it. I really did. I wanted to like it, but what the hell was that?
So and we'll get into all these points, and because I mean it's been a while since we've done a Marvel episode anyway. Throughout the last couple of years, we were pretty good about doing our reactions to every single series that came out, like as they were coming out.
And then we just stopped watching them all together.
Yeah.
It was the schedule that they were releasing them was absolutely ridiculous. Like,
I wouldn't
came
say
out,
so much it was the schedule as much as it just wasn't worth talking about. Like, by the time
That
the show was
too,
over,
I
we're moving
guess.
on to something
So
else.
those,
yeah, I guess.
and I will say
Too.
I have all of these
Yeah.
points listed for why Marvel is the way it is. I'm sort of calling this the State of the MCU address, and I kind of want John to re-record his Trump voice about us potentially
Oh
buying
my
Marvel.
god, please.
Previously on Utterly Nonsense.
Folks, brought you all here today. I'm glad you're here, by the way. Huge crowd, impressive, tremendous crowd. So unfortunately, our company, Warner Brothers, they're not doing great. They're getting beat the hell out of by Disney. They're getting beat the hell out of by Netflix still. Imagine that, Netflix. Nobody likes Netflix anymore. They're getting beat by Amazon. Everybody's beating them. And they're doing terrible. This is not a company for the people anymore. They're canceling all our movies, all our shows. It's true. It's so true. Which is why I am officially running for president of Warner Brothers, and we are going to make our company great again.
Because that's exactly where we are. It's like they're just making poor decision after poor decision, which seems to be exactly what was happening with DC, or with Warner Brothers specifically a year or two ago.
Like using AI to edit your intro. Dear Jesus.
Yeah, that was
nauseous.
not a great choice.
It was bad. It was bad.
So I do have a few thoughts before we go in series by series. I think the last time we talked Marvel was She-Hulk, or was it?
I thought it was Miss Marvel.
Well, She-Hulk was after Miss Marvel.
Was it Miss Marvel?
Oh, it's She-Hulk.
I know we did a
guess.
full thing on She-Hulk. I want
Hold on,
to
check our apps.
Oh, yeah.
talk about one of the movies.
You guys talked about She-Hulk.
Yeah, I know we talked about
yeah.
Black Panther as part of our year-end thing too, but I think that was around the
Yeah.
same time.
Did we talk about Ant-Man?
Yeah,
no,
I don't think
Ant-Man
we've
wasn't
gone
worth
in phase
talking
five
about.
at all.
I did
so-
not. I did see Quantumania a while ago. I just remember seeing it. I don't remember when.
So
What about... Did we talk about Thor: Love and Thunder?
I think we did.
we definitely did.
We did. Yeah, we did for sure.
Okay, and then we didn't talk
Yeah,
Guardians.
so because again,
We did
we've
not
not
talk
been
Guardians,
releasing
wow.
that much this year, especially Marvel related, specifically because we were gearing up for this episode 100 with Flash. But which
That's all that matters.
And again, it was a great episode, so I'm not like I do think it was worth the wait. So yeah, let's just start from the start of Phase 5 because that seems to be where we sort of left it whenever we talked Marvel last.
All right, so yeah, the last Marvel episode was in fact She-Hulk.
Yeah.
That was 96.
Okay,
I
that's what
just
I thought.
checked it. I just checked real quick. Yeah, and then before that, it was we did talk Thor for Miss Marvel and
So-
SDCC reveals. I
So
forget what
we-
that stands for. Probably San Diego something.
Yeah,
Comic-Con
most
or
likely.
whatever the hell.
It's San Diego
So-
Comic-Con. So we
Okay,
haven't
I
talked
did get that right.
Phase
How about
5
that
at
for
all.
once?
So there's no Phase 5 talk
Yeah,
at
so
all.
we can start fresh. From
Oh,
there.
God.
Before we get into
Here we
it,
go,
though,
guys. We're gonna piss a lot of you off.
Before we get into it, though, I didn't give any of the whole intro spiel I usually give. So if you somehow stumbled upon the podcast and you've never listened to us before, thanks for tuning in. Not sure how you found us, but all of our past links are on utterlynonsense.com. You can find links to all of our various podcasting platforms, as well as our social media, anything else related to the podcast. Go check it out. Links somewhere in the description here. Yeah, so Phase 5.
Spotify, YouTube, all of that fun stuff. Just go take a look, and if you're disappointed, then make better
So-
decisions.
Well, we gotta utilize YouTube
Yeah,
more.
we do. And I'm
little bit,
planning
yeah.
on posting more individual podcast episodes on there just because the response to episode 100 was as good as it was. But at the very least, we should probably be putting more clips on there.
Yeah, definitely go to a whirl or something like that.
So Phase 5 has been something.
Yes, the best part's been Spider-Man.
Yeah, so...
Wait, what?
What?
What are you talking about?
Phase 5, best part's been Spider-Man.
What's Spider-Man?
Then, what was the last one?
Well,
Shit.
No Way
Oh my
Home
God.
was middle of Phase 4.
Yeah, Ant-Man started.
Oh wait, that's Phase 4.
5.
Oh
Yeah, I know,
shit! I'm sorry, I'm
So
wrong then.
to be clear,
Wow.
Phase 4 officially ended in 2022 with Black Panther: Wakanda Forever.
Wow.
Wakanda forever.
And it
Really?
was sort of a abrupt transition between that and Ant-Man. I mean, there wasn't really a formal drop or like you look at the end of Phase 1 of the MCU. You had the Avengers, which was a good sort of conclusion to Phase 1 up until that point. It gave a good sense of things to come while also sort of bringing all these parts together.
Wait, did it?
Yeah, I thought so. I mean, look, you obviously had a lot of teasing with what was going to happen in Phase 2, just with the whole, Chitauri Empire, Thanos, I think you see briefly on screen in the post-credit scene, or maybe that was right after.
Fine, I'll do it myself.
So that was one thing. You don't have that at all in Phase 4, which I think is part of the problem. Like, if you're trying to build up Kang as being this, massive next threat for the MCU, which we'll get to that too.
Well, we did touch on that briefly. Who knows if we'll see Kang again?
Anyway, if you're trying...
We saw Ezra Miller.
Yeah, well,
Flash,
I mean, he's
so.
going to be coming in Loki Season 2 anyway, so that's worth addressing.
Well,
That should be interesting. Well, I mean,
That's-
technically,
yeah,
we already saw that.
I know,
Easter
it's
egg,
technically
so.
not Kang, and there's a million different variants, whatever, we'll get to it.
well, no, I was gonna say it's
one
still
of them.
not guaranteed going forward past Loki that it's still gonna be.
Yeah, well...
Fair enough.
So, I will say, as of right now, Avengers: The Kang Dynasty is still on the slate for 2026. Fuck, that's far... Like, that is far out.
Yeah, like,
Well,
jeez, that's...
you can
it's
blame
2023.
you can blame the full strike on that.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't help.
No, let's blame the executives for not paying their workers properly.
So,
Well, no,
again, that's
I
part of
mean,
the problem.
it's really still.
So, yeah, I mean, I think that was originally 2025, but obviously did get pushed out significantly. Yeah, so I have the full
Absurd,
list
yes,
of
but it's
what's
like, damn.
gone on in Phase 5 so far. I've got the full list of what's coming, so let's go into these one by one.
Nothing's coming.
Yeah, I mean, with the writer strikes, it's a little bit hard to predict.
Well, no, I mean,
Nothing valuable.
well, I mean, for example, Echo has apparently been removed from 2023 altogether.
What? Damn it. I was actually looking forward to that one.
So, yeah.
Because I actually don't really know much about Echo. I just know that she sidekicks and hangs out with Daredevil a lot. I'm aware of people. I'm making a joke. I'm trying to be clean for once.
Yeah, not this version. So...
Oh, all right, never mind.
Let's just go movie by movie since we've only had a couple so far in Phase 5.
Are you gonna count the series too, or just
Well,
movies?
do you want to do it chronologically? Because I do want to bring up the series up until this point.
Because I mean, Armor Wars was a series that has been promoted to a movie. So
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't see that on the
Yeah.
actual slate though.
Now that I'm stoked
wondering
for.
when they're
That could be
actually
interesting.
put that out.
that was supposed to be released next year, and that didn't happen because
Yeah, I mean, I'm not even seeing it on the slate whatsoever at this point. Like, I'm wondering where they're actually going to try to stick that in.
is Blade still on there?
Blade is still,
Oh, please tell me.
that's still set to come out February of 2025 at this point, though it seems like they're having issues with that. I heard the lead actor playing Blade was not going to move forward with the project, but I don't know if that's hearsay or if that's confirmed. Yeah, but I mean, again, that one's definitely delayed because of the current ongoing strikes. I mean, that didn't even start filming or start production beyond just basic script treatment, as far as we know. Yeah, so let me just go through and show what's on the upcoming slate right now. So we've had Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania as the start of Phase 5. We had Guardians Volume 3, which came out earlier this summer, or beginning of May, if you consider that summer. I think that's getting into there.
Kind of.
The Marvels comes out November of 2023.
I think that should be pretty dope.
Deadpool 3 comes out May of 2024.
Very dope.
Currently filming's on hiatus because of the strike. But I mean, we did
Well,
see some initial stuff.
I thought it was
Yeah,
finished.
well,
Well, no, Deadpool was going into post-production.
I mean, maybe with what they've got so far, but from what I heard, they were still really early on in the production phase.
They were, but because the writing strike and all that, they can't proceed forward. Well, they couldn't change anything, and Ryan's not allowed to improv anything. So,
Yeah, I mean, well, now you've got
part
the
of the-
whole Editors Guild on
I mean,
strike,
I
too,
get
so
that
I can't
one,
imagine
yeah.
they're going to be able to do much in the way of post-production until everything's resolved.
I don't want to
Meanwhile,
interrupt.
new season of Welcome to Wrexham is coming up soon, but then again, he does own part of the team, so.
CJ, I don't want to interrupt you too much, but so the fact that the strike can even interfere in like anyone that's still on board doing that just shows the kind of reliance that that we rely on that guild. Otherwise, I mean, who fucking cares? You could just do it. Well, obviously they have respect for the writers to not go ahead.
So, and I do want to bring that up too, because I do see these ongoing strikes as being part of a larger symptom of why Marvel's sort of declined in, at least the last couple years. But yeah, so let me just go through the rest of this slate before we say anything else. Deadpool 3 still scheduled for May of 2024 as of right now. Again, the ongoing strikes are probably going to affect that since it was early on in production. They can't really do much in the way of post-production. Captain America Brave New World coming out July 26th, 2024 as of right now. They actually changed the name of the movie. It was originally New World Order, but people thought that sounded too conspiratorial, especially with all the conspiracy theories surrounding COVID. I'm assuming that's why. But Brave New World doesn't exactly sound that much better, if that's the real concern.
Sounds Disney as shit.
Thunderbolts scheduled to come out December of 2024. Blade, February of 2025. And Phase 6, by the way, is very slim right now. It's 2 Avengers movies and Fantastic Four. So, I mean, they're going to expand on that, obviously. But it's weird that they're waiting that long to put out Fantastic Four, considering how vital the first family is to the events of Secret Wars in the comics. Which Secret Wars, by the way, is going to be the big Avengers film at the end of Phase 6. So Kang Dynasty comes out a year before it, presumably. So, yeah, I'm not even going to speculate what those are about because it's a ways away, and but I will say the fact that they are a year apart gives off a Infinity War Endgame vibe. Like, they're going to probably set something up in Kang Dynasty where he wins. You can't see my hands, but I'm doing the air quote thing. And
fair.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like they just had this winning formula with Infinity War and Endgame, so they're probably going to try to replicate it with this, villain that's really not as good as Thanos. So, yeah, Ant-Man and the Wasp, Quantumania. Did not talk about this with you guys in depth. I don't have too much to say about it because, like the first 2 Ant-Man movies, it's not really overly memorable.
I mean, I liked it. I thought it was all right, but I was like, oh, at the very end, he was just like, oh, did I just kill us all? I'm like, yeah.
So,
yeah.
I really love the first Ant-Man, so it's not fair to say they're all forgettable. But, the Ant-Man and the Wasp and Quantumania were for sure meant to be, like, the character is a comic relief in the MCU. He's not meant to sort of be taken as seriously as I think they've built him up to be. Unless it's Hank, then he's Scientist Supreme and don't piss. Well, we're talking about Scott Lang at this point.
Yeah, but with this one, yeah. I'm just saying, though, I'm going with comic book canon on that.
So, with Quantumania, they essentially built up the movie to be, it's the first official appearance we get of Kang in the MCU. It's really meant to be Scott Lang up against the world. He's trapped in the microverse or quantum realm.
Yeah, microverse. Well, it's the same, isn't it? It's
the microverse or the
But yeah. So, what can we say about this movie? So again, Kang's the main villain. He's obviously built up to be this being of immense power and technological advancement that we've not seen previously. But look, and I mean, this is a spoiler, but also the movie's been out for nearly a year at this point. If you're not going to see it, you're probably not going to see it. He defeats him incredibly easily, right? Like, for what's supposed to be a Thanos-level threat, it's a shockingly anticlimactic ending.
But I think that pulls into question, like, is Kang himself actually powerful, or is it the whole time manipulation, pulling himself from other realities that actually makes him powerful?
Yeah.
Because he doesn't actually... He's not Thanos in, like, power level set. He's just equipped with future technology that lets him pull all this shit.
Well, it's that, and the fact that he's a descendant of Reed Richards, and the fact that he's supposed to be
Nathaniel
one of the
Richards.
smartest people, ever born.
I was like, wait a minute, yeah.
And again, apparently, if you go into the whole comic lore behind Kang, there's this whole theory that he's not actually capable of losing anything because he plans as far ahead in advance as he actually does. And I will say I'm not...
So let's have him in Flash fight, because Flash can think faster than an attosecond, and I want to see who's faster. No, okay.
Well, there was one series that recently just came out with Kang, and he was in the past dealing with the Avengers from like 10,000 BC or something, and I think it was either Doctor Doom or somebody else was there, and they were like, Kang, you're going to lose. And he's like, I never lose. And then I guess he just suddenly changed time, and he won.
Yeah, so that's the thing. The guy
I guess you can do
has...
that.
Apparently,
especially even though you're dealing with Doctor Doom.
So, yeah, I mean, apparently the guy has a contingency plan for every possible scenario, so it makes him essentially an unbeatable villain. Which, you know, that's lazy from a storytelling perspective, but also, okay, it's interesting enough that I can see why they're trying to set him up to be this bigger threat. The fact that he seems so feckless in this first appearance, and, you know, this version of Kang is presumably dead or disintegrated or no longer a threat because of how...
Even smaller.
Yeah, so...
I mean, his fellow Kangs say he's dead, and they're mad that they didn't get to kill him, so...
Yeah, so, I mean, the whole Council of Kangs thing, it looks pretty clear that they're trying to expand on that in Loki.
It was terrifying.
And they've been building that up for a while. Again, I'm going to say the same thing I said after the first season of Loki, because I think after Ant-Man, it sort of reaffirms that position. Kang, at least Jonathan Majors' portrayal of Kang, does not make me think this is an intimidating villain. And... you know, maybe they're going to build up on the whole character a little more throughout this whole thing. Though, to be fair, Jonathan Majors is still facing legal trouble. We don't know if he's going to be recast or what at this point. I'm assuming he's not going to be, and they're going to try to leave him in as long as possible. But, you know, it...
I'll even admit, when I first, was introduced to this villain, I was just like, this just seems like a sophisticated, misunderstood individual that just got literally dealt a shit hand. I'm like,
yeah,
what?
No.
That's all I felt at first. Fuck, let me finish.
But, listen, buddy, I was talking, you jumped on top of me.
Oh, I didn't mean to, I'm sorry. Dang. Just trying to give my opinion here. It's called a podcast, I'll ask to check.
Okay, so what were you saying, Mike?
Oh no, I was going to say, you know that last scene when they do show the Council of Kangs and you see all the Kangs appearing in the arena? You know how the last movie was Wakanda Forever, a movie about the Black Country, forwarding the ideas of those people and everything?
Is this going to get racist, Mike?
Having a bunch of Jonathan Majors jumping around going,
yep. Did
the exact opposite of everything Wakanda Forever set up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
so...
I was like...
Well, now that you bring it up...
So, I will say, I think... yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all you can say about Quantumania without going plot point by plot point. But honestly, I really do not care about this movie enough to, say anything else about it. And that's depressing because it's by far the weakest movie in the Ant-Man trilogy.
I will admit, from a comedian sense, I enjoyed it greatly because that one, that was just like, excuse me, did you drink me? And I was just like, what the hell is happening right now? And then the telepat's going stop asking him if he has holes. God.
Yeah, so that's one thing.
That was the best part for me, pretty much, all the comedic stupid stuff, frankly.
Yeah. So I will say Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, arguably, first of all, one of the... I would say it's probably the best Marvel movie since Spider-Man No Way Home, but... Yeah, it's arguably the strongest movie in the Guardians trilogy. Even the first one, I think, which, again, is a masterpiece in my opinion. This adds such a nice catharsis to the whole thing. It sort of invalidates the whole point we're trying to make with this podcast about Marvel sort of fucking up and, not knowing what they're doing anymore. But, again, that comes down more to creative talent. Like, James Gunn just had a clear vision for this thing and carried it out pretty well.
So, I mean, you're right about, this one being the strongest. The only reason I agree with you on that is because the first one had the fucking dance-off.
Yeah, that's true.
And, the We Are Groot moment and all that, that was all kind of sidelined right afterwards, because he's like, dance off, you and me. But yeah, Guardian 3, it hits home emotionally. I think we all agreed in the chat, this was one of the strongest MCU movies that came out.
Yeah,
character building.
the feels, that the laughs, just like everything about it was just like, oh god. And then like even like throughout this, it goes like, hey, is this the gang's last adventure? Dang, what's going on here?
Yeah. So yeah, we've had a,
and it's like, yeah.
So
it's like,
anyway, yeah, I mean, again, that sort of invalidates the point we had about Phase 5 so far. But Secret Invasion's the only actual TV series to have come out as part of Phase 5 so far. Again, Loki comes out, beginning of October. As of the recording of this, that's about a month away. So Secret Invasion, I will say, the first 4 episodes were pretty good. Like, I actually liked what they did with the whole setup, how they treated the Skrulls. What's his name? Gravik was an interesting enough villain. Just seeing Nick, what's his name? Sam Jackson back as Nick Fury in a more permanent role is always nice. But then again, it seems to fall into the same trap a lot of these series have, where you have an interesting setup, but then by the end of it, you've just sort of blown that lead. It's a very anticlimactic ending that leads to...
Anticlimactic's being nice. I was like, what? I was like, I saw a good kill shot. Then I was like, oh, it's over?
Yeah, it was very... Well, first of all, it just felt very rushed, right? Like, they had a lot of this build-up leading to Gravik as being this threat, and they just sort of blew their load in a 20-minute sequence.
They blew their fucking
No, I'm not even kidding you. The way she did that move reminded me of Team 4-Star when, in Dragon Ball Z in general, when Vegeta kills Zarbon, and... Lanny Bator, as Vegeta goes like, now listen here, I'm gonna blow my load all over in your insides. And Zarbon, Kaiser Neko just goes, what the? No homo. And then just like blasts a hole through his chest. Immediately, like, Amelia Clark, Gaia did to Gravik. And I was like, did they just?
So, and again, that leads us to 2 important points from this. First of all, Gaia is now by far the strongest character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I don't think there's anyone who even touches that. She literally has the powers of every other character.
Everybody.
Every Marvel character, hero that's appeared into the MCU.
And Carol's sensing that in space right now, and she's pissed.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. For as many people as there were saying, oh, Captain Marvel's the strongest, she's now stronger than Captain Marvel and has the abilities of every other strong Avenger, right?
Through canon and just the fact that she's now part Hulk and Fantastic Four and literally everybody that...
Yeah.
And, like, everybody.
So that obviously creates a huge problem for a few reasons, but I don't even know if they have any plans to show this character at any point in the future of the MCU. Like, maybe if you get the Skrulls involved again at some point, but it seems like, Secret Invasion was supposed to be the end of the Skrull arc, but they, again, really didn't do much to develop the characters beyond what we see in these episodes.
No, like...
and I will say...
It's like, you spend an episode and a half, like, going like, oh, here's this girl's redemption arc after she was pretty much the villain in the first 4 episodes. I was like, what?
Yeah, and
I was like, I mean, technically anti-hero because she was the mole and all that crap. Too.
And
spoilers,
again,
by the way. Sorry, but if you're
no
not watching this show, let's be real.
And again, they could have built that up a little bit more. I will say, I still think Captain Marvel is one of the weakest movies in the MCU overall. But
it's got I like some parts.
The Skrulls, I think, were one of the few redeeming qualities about it. And again, Talos is actually one of the better characters that was introduced in that movie, and is good in the first couple episodes of this until they just kill him off unceremoniously.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, it was pretty hardcore kill for Gravik. I'll admit that. He just gets to stare the man that he's like, I'm deeming you my mortal enemy in my eye. I'm going to kill my former general in front of you too. I was like, all right, no, it's good villain kill, I'll admit, but like not the flashiest.
So I gotta be honest with you guys. I watched 1 episode and it was fucking horrible. So I didn't continue.
So you were turned off from the beginning.
Yeah, wow. I mean, I know everything that happened. Like, I know who's a Skrull, and I know all that. I know also the theories about when they became a Skrull. I know what happened with the Super Skrulls. I know whose power they have. But holy shit, it is such an awful fucking outcome of what could have been a really good spy series.
Yeah. Oh, and that's another thing. Yeah, first of all, the only major...
Notice there was a very...
Yeah. So...
Like, a lack of espionage a lot.
Which, again, works well. I mean, people loved Captain America, the Winter Soldier. People liked Black Widow, and both sort of had those themes. It clearly can be done in a satisfying way with Marvel characters in the greater MCU, but, I mean, this was just sort of a letdown. Let's see. So this leads me to like some of the greater overarching themes, because that's all we've actually gotten of Phase 5 so far. First of all, do you think this was an immediate decline after Endgame, just, Marvel not being able to sort of build on that momentum, or do you think it was more gradual, just, a few projects not working well and Marvel having set the bar as high as it was in, towards the end of towards the end of Phase 3, just leading to this, eventual decline?
I mean, I feel like it was a tad bit purposeful, but it's also like it kind of makes sense because like this was just like, here's our absolute climax to this entire like build up and all that, and this feels like kind of like a prologue into something else, but it's like, or epilogue, whichever the end part is. I'm bad with literature. All right.
Epilogue's the end. Epilogue.
Thank you. And then it was just like, I don't know. It feels like they're, because also with like, even like VFX people involved in the Flash film were saying like a lot of this stuff's being rushed and all that because companies are just like, just produce it. We don't care what it looks like. And it's like, it's why like, I also feel like it's another factor in why we're losing interest in all this. Is because like it just looks so lazily made. Everything feels rushed, and it's just like, okay, you can take a year longer. We don't care at this point.
Yeah. So I mean, that was one of the points I had for why we're seeing this decline. First of all, you have a bunch of series and a bunch of movies that just really did feel rushed relative to some of the other earlier entries in the MCU.
Not just talking plots, we're talking about just like the actual like production.
Well, I'd argue the production more so.
Production, but also the acting in like Ant-Man Quantumania. It just, everything feels rushed. Even the relationship between Cassie and Scott just.
Yeah, it's true. There's not a lot of build-up. And again, we see that in Secret Invasion, too.
Yeah,
it's just
that was
carried out because of...
I was like, wait a minute, why are they so good as a tag team already when it's just like, oh, I just found out my daughter's a freaking superhero. I'm like, what?
And that's the thing, like, a lot of these things seem like just missed opportunities, and a lot of them seem like they had potential, but they just blew it. And again, that's part of the problem with Secret Invasion. And, to a larger extent, Ant-Man and the Wasp, and... basically any other flawed entry from the last 5 or so years. You're just seeing...
God, Shang Tsung was so great, God.
And I think part of that does come from just them trying to pump out this much content. And, we're calling it Marvel fatigue to some extent, but that's also, like, part of the case. Like, they're just putting out so much at once that they're not really giving the creative talent behind these projects enough time to actually develop them. Part of the reason Guardians 3 worked is because James Gunn's been writing it for, 5 or 6 years? Like, he had a clear vision in his mind.
Don't give him that, please. Don't give him that.
So...
Please don't, because it's going to feel so much worse when he disappoints us with Superman.
I don't know. He hasn't had a miss so far.
Dude, I'm not even high up on Superman. Like, I'm the guy that doesn't even like Superman much in this group, and I'm just like, all right, you could do a pretty good job because nothing has impressed me in general.
I mean, the whole conversation about, James Gunn essentially fucking up the DC universe, or I guess we're not calling it the DC Extended Universe anymore because of his whole takeover.
I don't think it can really, but...
That's a whole other conversation. We're not going to get into it today.
The Gunverse?
Gunverse. So, moving on, I mean, I and again, you mentioned the strike specifically, so I'm going to address that. I think that's obviously a huge part of why Marvel's not doing too well right now. I mean, beyond the obvious fact that the strikes are delaying projects in basically every facet of Hollywood, the conditions that led to the strikes, actors and creative talent just not being paid their fair wages, and, just CGI artists being expected to pump out content in just unreasonable time frames. It all led to a breaking point, right? Like,
yeah, people are overworked, underpaid, and it's just...
Yeah,
nothing but everything being rushed to holy hell because they're just like, get it done. We don't care what it looks like. It's just like, make us more money. And are we going to pay you?
And
no.
I mean, that's the thing. You can look at that in literally any industry. If you just underpay people and expect unrealistic deadlines, you're going to see a quality of work decline. Again, that's something we're clearly seeing here. The CG has been a clear issue in Marvel, like at least for the last couple phases. I mean, I remember.
I think it started like with Thor: Love and Thunder when they were doing whoever Heimdall's kid was. I just forget his name. It was Heimdall's kid in the one thing, and I was just like, why does it look like that?
But again, it was a problem earlier on. Like the first Black Panther had wonky looking CGI in spots.
I mean, yeah, I guess there were some areas where I was like, that's a little bit odd.
Yeah, but then you've also got complaints over the animation What If, which, again, for a Disney Plus series, probably should have been a little more polished. You've also got complaints over, the CGI in Moon Knight not looking right, and She-Hulk's design not looking right, and Miss Marvel just looking weird. It's like little bits and pieces throughout all of these.
That whole hard light thing, I was just like, God, just let her be like Mr. Fantastic, like, because that's our original powers, but no, we gotta make it different.
Yeah, so, I mean, that again is one thing. Like, the CGI, I think, is, suffering not because they can't afford good CGI artists. It's one of the biggest studios in the world. They obviously can afford the best talent.
Barbie made $1 billion, damn it.
So it's not an issue.
I'm a Barbie girl.
I mean, I'm seeing that Thursday. I'm excited, so.
Yeah, so it's not an issue with them not being able to afford this talent. It's an issue with them just not being able to sustain the levels they've been working at. And again, that echoes throughout, both of these phases, especially.
Yeah, for real.
And I do think part of that comes down to the Disney Plus model of them trying to churn out a bunch of series for this platform. When Marvel was just about...
Because money grab.
When Marvel was just about putting out good quality films, a few a year at a time, and that being essentially the extent of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I think it worked fine, right? Like...
Yeah.
You didn't feel like you were getting too much. You always left the audience wanting more. And that, I think, is just key to building a good universe, key to building a universe that people can follow. And you sort of fell off that with Phases 4 and 5, partially because of all these series that have released on Disney Plus. That, you obviously feel obligated to follow these as someone who's, invested in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but it's just a lot of content if you don't have a lot of free time.
Yeah, and it's like, everybody, you miss one of those series or just, like, completely ignore it at all. And then, like, oh, great, here's this canon thing that was on this random show that you had to watch for that scene. And I was just like, oh, for freaking God's sake. But I was surprised to see that there wasn't an end credit scene for Secret Invasion. Honestly, I was like, all right, good.
Right.
I don't care right now because I just wanted to get it done.
Yeah, I mean, you also made the point with Secret Invasion, and again, this supports the whole them not really respecting their talent thing, that, they made this whole AI-generated intro sequence, which, I think it works fine for the entrance,
like garbage.
But, it speaks to them not wanting to pay CGI artists to actually animate this thing. Yeah.
Like, there were people on Twitter just going like, I'm not even an animator and all that stuff, and here's how I fixed this and made it look better and all that. I'm like, yeah, you people are just insane.
Yeah, so...
Not the artists, the freaking executives being jackasses.
Yeah, and I did want to make this point that...
Talking to you, Eager.
So I did also want to make the point that... I mentioned I think they're churning out too much content, but specifically it just seems like they're throwing out spin-offs from series that no one really wants to see spin-offs for or wants to see in any greater detail than what we already saw. Echo...
And didn't Agatha... Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so I was going to say Echo specifically... and if there's a few that sort of fit into this mold, but pretty unmemorable character from Hawkeye that they just decided to give a solo series. And again, I'm not super familiar with the comic iteration. I know it was sort of a Deadpool... Or a Daredevil, partnership. But, they're not building that up in this. She's just, a deaf girl who apparently knows how to fight, which... Again, is interesting as a supporting character, but
there's a couple of those.
I feel like them trying to build that up into its own whole series for what was mostly a forgettable character is just a bad idea. Agatha Darkness Diaries, which, again, this is one they renamed. It was originally Coven of Chaos, so I don't know when that change happened.
Yeah, I was going to say, that got changed like 3 times. What the heck are they doing with that?
Yeah, I mean, look, again, good supporting character in WandaVision, a series that everyone liked.
Thought she was great.
But do we really need a solo series for, again, a B or C list villain? I don't think we really do.
Peacemaker.
Yeah. So again, I'm not saying it can't be done. I'm just saying
he's like a D-list. I mean, it could be good, but I mean, it is whack how that she pretty much got a series just because of the damn song.
Yeah, and it actually is Jack Schaefer behind.
Not saying it's bad, but it's just like, wow, really? That's it?
Yeah. So it's Jack Schaefer behind that, who was also the head writer and director for WandaVision. So that at least has some promise of being, similar to that or decent, but. Again, it's like no one's really asking for the series, so why even think about building it up? You've got Ironheart coming out. I mean, they haven't announced a formal release date, but that's been on the schedule for at least the last couple of years. I will say, I really did like Black Panther Wakanda Forever. I thought, in terms of the actual plot, it was more interesting than the first one, despite, Chadwick Boseman obviously not being part of it. I mean, that was, the worst thing. It would have been great if they could have found a way to include him. In some
well, that would have been a little weird for me, but I mean, I get it.
It's like I'm wondering if he shot any of it and it was just unusable, or if he was just completely left out because of the timing of his death. Either way, it's not great. I
mean, regardless, the family was just going like, I mean, please recast the character. Just don't let him be like the only one that gave all these kids this like identity and like representation, whatnot.
So,
which is nice, because it's just like, I feel like we do deserve like legitimate Black Panther, and sure, should be sure.
Right.
No offense, but even though she does become Black Panther, don't get me wrong. I'm just like, little timeline wise, no, not the right time. I mean, unless it's this universe, I don't know. It's like a lot of factors here.
Anyway, Ironheart was again, like, if you saw this movie, I think Riri Williams was probably the worst part of it. And they decided to make an entire series based off of this character that, look, I can't speak for everyone who's seen the movie, but I think she's one of the worst characters they've introduced in the MCU up until this point. Just...
Who's this, Ironheart?
Yeah, Ironheart. She just comes off as...
I mean, I don't really know much about it, so, I mean, I just know they're like a young protege that's inspired by Tony Stark.
Yeah, I mean, she's essentially meant to be a stand-in for Tony Stark. It's like she stole a bunch of Iron Man's equipment, which, again, does not match up with what we see in the comics about her, like, essentially building her own Iron Man armor. She's essentially portrayed to be a thief in this, and as a result of that, she's... she also just comes off very cocky as a result of it, which is just a very unappealing trait for a character you're just meeting. It works for Tony because, we know to expect that from Tony Stark, and it's charming as a result of that. With her, it's just unearned. And, again, maybe they'll expand on her in this, but why are they making an entire series based around this one character?
Ooh, Echo?
No. Ironheart.
Ironheart.
Oh, because they had a comic series for it.
Yeah. So, what else can we say? The Marvels. So, the trailer doesn't look terrible to me, but it's also one of the most disliked Marvel trailers on YouTube, if you're going based off of...
Jeez, YouTube has a troll problem.
Yeah, so...
You mean like X?
Yeah, you mean Twitter, though. I'm not calling it X. Screw that.
The thing is, it's not like Rotten Tomatoes where it displays the score. The only reason I know how low the score is because I have a add-in onto my YouTube that shows the actual counts, and it was pretty highly reported that people didn't like the trailer. Whatever, I'm willing to look past that and see the actual movie and withhold judgment until then. What I will say is, and again, I do still believe Captain Marvel's the weakest movie or one of the weakest movies in the MCU up until this point, excuse me. But
so the reason I think it will do good is because it is a team up, and Miss Marvel really did generate some hype behind her when she had her series.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And also, I mean, what's her name? The one that was in Wanda.
Phaser.
Rambo.
Monica Rambeau.
I believe the hero name's Photon.
Photon, Phaser, it's a few different names, but
whatever,
Monica
whichever.
Rambeau.
But
and that's the thing. That's the
Rambeau,
point I
yeah.
made when they released the first trailer, right? Like Brie Larson was, Captain Marvel in the first movie. Obviously, she was built up to be this major figure in the MCU moving forward. That sort of fell off after her solo movie. But yeah, I mean, both of these characters come off as more interesting in this thing than she does, and I just find that pretty ironic considering how much build-up there was up until this point. The thing is, Captain Marvel, look, it grossed $1 billion. There's clearly some audience there for it, so there's clearly someone who wants to see this movie, and was clearly clamoring for this movie. But it's still by far if you're looking off the Rotten Tomatoes scores, which again isn't the most scientific metric, it's still got the lowest audience score of any Marvel Cinematic Universe movie to date. You can't ignore that there was a huge contingent of the Marvel base that did not want to see this movie and would not see a sequel.
I'm gonna say this. It can't be worse than Morbius. Sorry. It's not gonna be worse than that movie.
Well, we're talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe here, not the Sonyverse, because obviously Morbius...
Fair enough, but it's still it no doubt cannot be worse than some of the other movies that are considered to be MCU. I'm sorry, I still don't like The Incredible Hulk. But
that's...
I don't like it all that much. I'm sorry.
Well,
we're gonna fucking fight.
Yeah, I wouldn't agree with that.
And this movie also can't be worse than Dark World for Thor, because I was just like, my God.
Well, again, I think...
Dark World was... Sorry, CJ,
Yeah, I was going to say the Marvels has enough going against it that I don't think it's going to be as bad as Captain Marvel. And both of these characters are more interesting to me from their solo appearances so far than Brie Larson's character. And they're clearly trying to give them more screen time, than Captain Marvel. There's a reason they're not calling it Captain Marvel 2. They want this to be a team-up movie.
One thing I think is also going to work for them, I think they finally realized Brie Larson's character was not written well. So
that too, it really wasn't.
Because she's obnoxious and annoying in the first one, and then in Avengers, she disappears throughout the fucking movie. She comes, they kill Thanos, then she disappears in space.
They could have written her out of that movie, and it wouldn't have made a difference.
Gets a haircut though.
But just the glimpse they gave of her in the end of Miss Marvel, but also the trailer for the Marvels, it looks like they kind of modernized Carol. That she's not stuck in the 90s anymore, or all business. It looks like she's a little bit more fun. And not someone stuck a stick up Brie Larson's ass.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest...
also, she gained the respect of Thor, too, so it's alright, clearly they're trying to give this person some prestige in this franchise.
Yeah, I mean, look, if the foundation of a character like that is as weak as it is, I don't know how easy it is to redeem them. I'm willing to give it the benefit of the doubt and go into this with an open mind. I'm just saying, it's hard to erase what they've done so far. Yeah, that being said, I'd much rather see that than, say, rewatching Captain Marvel or... there's a lot of worse projects that could come out, but that leads me to the whole point of, did we really need this? I don't know if we really needed this, specifically.
I mean, I will form that opinion when I eventually watch that movie, so let's see how that goes 3 or 4 months out when it's released.
So, anyway, would you agree with the assessment that a lot of these spin-offs seem unnecessary and that it really just seems like an excuse for Marvel to pump out content?
Yeah, well, it seems like it's catering.
Yes and no.
Right.
A lot of pandering, yeah.
Yeah, Echo is clearly just pandering. They're oh, we have a black superhero, we have a Hispanic superhero. Let's give them a deaf and, what is she?
I think she's supposed to be Hispanic, right?
No, it's that she's missing her leg.
Oh, paraplegic?
What?
Or
yeah,
amputee?
Let's give him a paraplegic and deaf character, and then let's give him Ironheart, because, that series went really well in the comics.
Yeah.
Did it? I don't know. I'm asking on that one.
It was very
much
aligned.
It's definitely pandering, because you have the Fantastic Four that should be coming out, but instead they're focusing on these characters that no one cares for. I'm good with them pushing back Daredevil another 2 years if we got the Fantastic Four sooner.
Right. No, I'd absolutely agree with that, too. It's they're really putting off the projects that people actually want to see in favor of what's really just filler.
And, you want to give me a black character? Give me fucking Blade. It's been long enough.
I mean, yeah, they did tease him at the end of Eternals, so, I mean, I'd be interested to see that since I never saw the original Blade to begin with, so...
What?
Yeah, still haven't.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't shock me. It was like it did come out when we were like 3, so
I'm like, Mike, get out of here on that one.
of
man.
all the
Come on.
movies Jack hasn't seen, it does not shock me in the slightest that he hasn't seen Blade.
Like, come on.
Yeah, so
I'm gonna watch before the new one comes out. Obviously, I mean, I'll try, but
You can go get all four. The first 3 movies, and plus the promo of like the TV show they try to do at Walmart for like $5.
oh my god.
yeah, so I will say I think we can also agree that it's not just a Phase 5 thing. There was clearly some missteps in Phase 4 that just continued on into Phase 5, and Phase 5 seems to be worse than Phase 4 up until this point, just by a matter of the content they're releasing.
I think it really has to do with the individuality of the. Because if you go back to Phase 1, you had Iron Man, then you had Incredible Hulk, and at the end of Incredible Hulk, you kind of got teased that Tony Stark was. That's the same thing. Then you got Thor. Then you got you got Iron Man 2. Then you got Thor. Then you got Captain America, and it made sense. And then all the movies kind of just made sense with still world building. And then around Phase 3, they were like, "Here's Civil War," and it just kind of served, like Age of Ultron, just served to move forward. And then Civil War just kind of served to move forward. Everything started serving to move forward. And then Infinity War just kind of paid off on all of it. And then, Infinity and Endgame. And now we're trying to build back up, but we have like Shang-Chi. He did so well. Like all these people loved it. I didn't really care for the movie, but then you have the Eternals that came out. And everyone's like, you have the Black Widow prequel, which has absolutely nothing to do with going forward because she's dead.
Yeah, that was.
Except for Yelena.
Yeah,
Elena,
I mean,
yeah.
I think that's part of the reason why they had Black Widow as a solo movie. It was just to introduce that character, who's obviously going to be a big part of Thunderbolts and probably a few other Marvel projects moving forward.
That's the thing. Like, I expected the Thunderbolts to be coming out sooner because they had the Hawkeye, all that stuff going on, and I'd just be like, okay, when are we getting that all started? Because Hawkeye's got to be doing something. He ain't just. Wanted to be hanging out with his family, but no, he's not.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mike would agree with me that there really hasn't been a clean break to any of these phases. There really hasn't been much build up to any one thing in particular, which is also part of the problem. Not to put words in your mouth, but I think that's sort of where you were going with that whole point.
It's that, but also they're not there's connections, but there's also no connections.
Right.
Like Shang-Chi, it ended with Miss Marvel and Bruce Banner and all that, and we don't know what that was actually hinting to. Right. But then we had the Eternals, and there's that there's the fucking Celestial coming out of the ground that's still not really mentioned.
The Earth's an egg, and we've literally not heard a thing about it since.
It's just, it hasn't, none of this stuff has actually gone anywhere like it used to.
Right.
Like Iron Man 2 showing you that map of all these hotspot shields is monitoring kind of went somewhere because Wakanda is one of them.
Right. Yeah, that's a really good point. I didn't even think about much up until this point. I mean, look, I do think, at least with Captain America and the Winter Soldier, or Falcon and the Winter Soldier, or whatever else you want to call it, Captain America and the White Wolf, like, at least that's setting up the invention of the Thunderbolts in the background. Like,
Captain America, the Wolf, the boat.
Yeah,
Sorry.
And I mean, Captain America, Brave New World, and Thunderbolts seem like they're going to tie into each other pretty directly, which is why they're releasing only a few months apart. And I'd imagine they're going to include a bunch of the same characters. But yeah, I mean, that's one plot thread that doesn't seem to go much else. Like, to your points, Shang-Chi sets up this whole background about trying to introduce this character into the MCU, but it's like, I don't really see them including Shang-Chi in any other future product at this point.
But also, like, what was that signal going out to? Was it going out to Kang? Was it going out to like the Celestials? Where was that signal going?
Yeah.
If it doesn't lead to Kang, it doesn't build the story.
Right.
Captain America is not going to build the story. Thunderbolts aren't going to build the whole multiverse story.
And the thing is, unless you're like really a diehard Marvel fan watching all of these movies and theorizing like we are, you're probably not going to remember the ending of Shang-Chi 3 or 4 years down the line when they do eventually build on that. Assuming they do build on it.
Yeah, and then like you got the Heroes for Hire as well. Like, we kind of had that going on. Everybody's been introduced and everything. So it's like, okay, what's going on with them? And since we have all of them now, we have Iron Fist, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Shang-Chi. All we need is Misty Knight, and then we got a party. Oh, and we got Colleen Wing, too.
Ironically, Deadpool 3 is probably the next closest thing we have to a multiverse film, since they're apparently jumping universes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm wondering how they're going to tie it in without it seeming like completely ridiculous. But
you guys see that Nick Cage is supposedly in it?
Is he playing Superman again? Because I would pick it.
No, he's playing Ghost Rider.
Yes,
that would be awesome, actually.
Now give me that. That is what I need from Nick Cage.
But that's the thing. Ryan Reynolds kind of like the Deadpool movies can give you what you want without really any consequence because he's jumping universes, which Doctor Strange could have done. Instead, they're like, hey, here's Agent Carter, because all you guys wanted her, or all you guys wanted Monica Rambeau as Miss Marvel. You guys definitely didn't want more heroes that we don't have.
Yeah,
I would prefer Doctor Doom, but...
yeah, I mean, we discussed this all when we were talking about Doctor Strange like a year and a half ago, but yeah, it's basically like... You know, they only spent time in really one universe, you know, aside from that one montage you say. So it's when you're calling it the multiverse of madness, you would have expected, you know, him to be exploring a little bit more and for there to be a little more consequence, for it to seem a little more epic. But they sort of wasted it, which is a shame. It's a criminal underuse of Sam Raimi's talents.
Yeah.
So... yeah, I mean, so that leads me to my last question for you guys, which is, how can we salvage the MCU? What can we do to get it back on track, assuming we're the ones behind this? Oh, and I should have asked this sooner, but do you think the current state of the MCU is the direct result of Kevin Feige, or, like, do you think it's a lack of creative vision, or just, like, too many creative people doing too many different things and not really having one cohesive vision?
I'd say more creative short-sightedness than anything. It's just like I feel like he's, in his perspective, that he's hitting on all of these. It's like all of these numbers and all that. Look at our subscriptions. It's like, yeah, but no one really cares. We're just watching because we feel obligated to. It's not like we feel like, oh god, if we miss this, then we're gonna miss a huge chunk of like a canon event in the next movie or whatever. But it's just like, no, it's like kind of like the show. It's a little bit of nonsense right now. It's just like it's anime filler essentially. So, and just like not only that, you're rushing this so much that you're actually visibly hurting the product in its actual quality.
Right.
So it's pretty short-sighted, and also like, and frankly, I'm just like, all right, I don't give a shit when the next movie comes out at this point.
I like everything Jack just said, but I'd like to add that, like, just between the change of the CEOs, what was the Bob Chapek or whatever his name was, like, he really kind of like fucked over the Disney side of Marvel, like marketing and all that in the beginning with the streaming problems with Black Widow and all that. But it seems like people are saying, like, you know, if Kevin Feige gives more creative freedom to the directors, we're gonna have better movies and all that, but I don't really think so, because I don't know if you guys know this, but apparently in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Star-Lord's helmet breaks. I didn't ever pay attention to that because he has it again in Infinity War. But apparently James Gunn in Guardians 3 makes a remark. I mean, like, he has it remarked that he left it back at his apartment. Because he never wanted to show it again. He wanted to keep it as a marker of Star-Lord's growth and stuff like that.
Oh, that actually does make sense.
And he was really mad that they used it during Infinity War. And he was also really mad that they had Thor leave with the Guardians, and that he was like, I'm really excited that Taika Waititi, whatever his name is.
Taika Waititi.
Yeah, when he had the Guardians ditch Thor in Thor: Love and Thunder, James Gunn was like, I'm glad you did, because Thor was never going to be in my movie. So, like, there's a certain limit to which you should rein in directors and you shouldn't, because it feels like James Gunn just had this creative freedom that nobody else had, where James Gunn could just be like, yeah, no, I don't give a shit about your overarching scheme. I'm keeping it my way. And his movies were good, and his characters were good, but you can't do that with every single movie in the MCU, because then we have no collaborating story.
Yeah.
It's kind of like how Wonder Woman happened with the Justice League and everything. The story started becoming uncohesive.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, I agree with everything you just said. I think what it really comes down to is balance, right? Like, you need someone who's pulling the strings and has a clear vision for the entire universe.
Perfectly balanced, as all things should. Sorry, couldn't resist.
But you also need like good creative talents like James Gunn and Jon Favreau and who else? Who are the brothers? The Russo brothers. Thank you. Like you have no short of breadth of good talent behind these projects. So it's really just a matter of finding the right project for the right person and like having an idea of how each project should connect to each. Beyond that, I do think the Marvel fatigue thing is a very real issue. Like, if I was Kevin Feige, if I had a magic wand to control everything in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, what would I do to fix it?
Well, they did in She-Hulk.
Well, first of all, yeah, that's true.
All right,
first of all, I'd raise She-Hulk.
The fact that they kind of called themselves out, that was hilarious.
Actually calling themselves out, or are they doing commentary kind of
it's
playing
pandering?
It's like they wrote themselves into a corner, so they just decided, rather than actually tell a good story, we're just going to use the cop-out of calling ourselves lazy. And, they're using it as a shield rather than an actual, plot conclusion. No, it's just lazy.
And they clearly didn't learn because Ant-Man came out after She-Hulk.
It's like they're using the whole self-referential thing as a shield for actually trying to grow. And yeah, it's like it can be done right. Like you look at Deadpool 1 or 2, poking fun at Fox and the greater ecosystem. It can be done right, but you can't use that as a shield to cover up your own mistakes.
Teen Titans Go did that better and when they roasted themselves. So
what would I do if I was Kevin Feige? First of all,
that's the first nice thing I said about that.
First of all, extend the release times in some of these. Like, I think Secret Invasion probably could have worked if you had given it 9 episodes instead of 6, and actually let some of this flow a little bit better. Give it some more time to actually have a satisfying ending.
What would have worked is if they had more heroes.
Yeah, that's true.
If they had more heroes, if they actually did like they did in the comics, where it was actually like, we're not bringing in the Avengers, but you don't know if they've already been replaced. Clearly, Rhodey was.
Yeah, the thing is, this could have been an entire end of an arc.
Yeah, when did that happen, by the way?
Yeah, I mean, they're saying Rhodey was replaced prior to the events of Infinity War, but there's not anything in the actual movie or anything in the actual series
to lead anyone to believe that. Because it's clearly the man, he's just within his physical rehab, so this has to be post.
It's hard to predict. You can't really tell at this point.
There's a lot of theories that it was right after Civil War when he was injured, and that the entire time he's been replaced because of the hospital gown. But most people think it's after Endgame that he was offered some kind of surgery to fix his legs, because he can. I guess he can walk in Captain America and the Winter Soldier without the use of Tony's thing. And
he doesn't actually fall or get injured until Civil War. So of course,
because remember Endgame, he got crushed into the building and he had to crawl out of the thing. Right. Apparently, that the thing that Tony built for him no longer worked, and Tony was dead, so he couldn't rebuild it. So everyone thinks Rhodey went in for an operation and didn't come back out as Rhodey.
Well, look, there's a bunch of theories, but no one actually knows for sure when that body swap happened.
Yeah, but then him being with Nebula in Endgame makes absolutely no sense.
But it makes sense with him being replaced after Endgame because his demeanor kind of changed in Captain America and the Winter Soldier, but I just don't think they would undervalue Tony's death by saying that Rhodey was a replacement that time.
Yeah. So
and a Skrull as Rhodey being at the funeral kills all emotional ties to that scene. Then which
I will say, I think Mike's absolutely right that they could have included more characters in this. The fact that Rhodey was really the only significant character to be replaced by a Skrull was completely a misstep.
I didn't care about their version of a Fox News host on that. I was like, what the hell is this? And why is it Shooter McGavin?
Yeah.
But we all know why. Because it's not the comics, it's not a TV show where we can just draw the character and they're there. Paying the actor to come in, Marvel just was like, we saved so much more money by not bringing in an actor that's going to cost us $10 million to have just here for
that's
one
the thing.
episode.
If they had given this a bigger budget or let it be an actual movie or something with a little more momentum to it, you could have agreed with that. But they chose to cram out more content, which obviously divides the overall resources they can invest into each project. Hence the whole argument we've been making throughout this entire podcast that there's just too much Marvel content right now that people don't know what to do with it. So again, if I was Kevin Feige and I had some magic wand to control all these things, I'd cut some of these unnecessary projects. You don't need Echo, you don't need Agatha Darkhold Diaries, you don't need Ironheart. And at least if you're going to insist on throwing Disney Plus series into this whole thing that are highly consequential for the MCU, like Loki, give it at least enough of a release between projects that people don't feel overwhelmed and can actually follow everything. Yeah, you just want to address the fatigue. Don't make it so fatiguing.
I was going to say, yeah, I mean, look at John. John gave up immediately after Endgame.
Yeah, and why do you think John gave up? Well, if he was here, he would tell you, none of these projects really interest me. I can't do a good John, but I think you guys know. You've heard him say that exact thing enough times to know exactly why he stopped.
Yeah,
watching.
for real.
No, he did go see Spider-Man, so we know that he's seen that.
That's true.
Oh shit! I still gotta see you across the Spider-Verse.
Not MCU, doesn't matter, except for the reference to MCU.
Yeah. Oh, I was going to include that as part of this whole thing too, but it's also not part of the MCU.
Fair enough.
Not as good as the first one, I will say. But yeah.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything else to add. I think we made our points clear here, so I am just going to end it.
Yeah. Do better, fucking Marvel.
Yeah, Marvel, just
do better.
Pay your hardworking people what they're owed. Get the quality up, and be more patient, for God's sakes. You're going to make a bunch of money anyway. You literally are. So make it look good, and just do your damn jobs right, too. Come on.
I would like to add this note to the people at Marvel. You have over 60 years of comic history to pull from. Stop pulling recent stories. Stop pulling recent characters. You have so many more characters to delve into. We have Miss Marvel before we have Blue Marvel. We have Ironheart before we have the Fantastic Four. Please, focus on the characters that made your company what it is today. Focus on the storylines. Ignore the Clone Saga and One More Day from Spider-Man, please. Thank you.
And anything involving Galactus, give me that, please, because that'd be dope.
Yeah, and maybe throw Doctor Doom into the
he's
Fantastic
awesome to
Four movie. Just, don't do a Fan Four stick. Okay,
God.
with all that being said...
Oh, my God.
This has been the Utterly Nonsense Podcast. If you stuck around for this long, you clearly liked what you heard, so... give us a follow, give us a subscribe on whatever your preferred platform is. If you did find us somewhere, let us know how you found us. Always looking to build up our audience. What else can I say? I said follow the website already, right? So, yeah, go check out utterlynonsense.com. Has all of our stuff on it. With all that being said, 8-Bit Music, play us out.
We need a jingle.
We have a jingle.